Welcome everyone to this week's edition of the Commercial Real Estate 101 Meetup Group. For those of you guys who are tuning for the first time, we started this group back about 4 years ago to kind of become a watering hole for the topic of commercial real estate. So we invite speakers from really all across the country to talk about a variety of different topics. And today we have the honor to have Bryant on the call, tuning in from Baton Rouge, Louisiana. Really excited to discuss the topic of AI for brokerage. So really, how do you incorporate this newer technology into what you do on a day-to-day in a variety of different capacities? So Bryant, welcome. It's an honor to have you on the show, man.
Thanks for having me, Raphael. I've been a fan of the podcast for quite a while now. It's an honor to be here.
Thanks, man. I appreciate it. And then offline, I know we touched on it. One of our good friends, Bo Barron, was actually the gentleman who introduced us, and really excited to kind of dive into the nuances of this particular topic. It's one that, I've had interest in for a long time, and hopefully we can get some value from this conversation. So, but before we just dive into the actual nuts and bolts, I thought it'd be good to kind of give people a little bit of perspective on who you are. That's typically what we like to ask is, what got you started, and give us a little bit of background about yourself.
Sure. I actually got started in real estate about 11 years ago in residential property management. And single family rentals was kind of my focus point for a number of years. I worked my way up to director of single family management for a rather large operation. And that was both very fun, very educational, but also stressful at times. About a year and a couple months ago, I decided I'd like a change. And I know Carl Landrino is a big power player in the commercial real estate field. He's involved with CCIM, past president, and he is our local director for commercial sales and leasing. So I thought, let me switch sides and jump across the hall and see how that would work. So I've been in commercial real estate brokerage for a little over a year. I'm still learning the foundations, wrapping my heads around a lot of it, but I had a lot of experience from my former profession that rolls into it. A lot of those portfolio owners are still clients. So that's kind of how I've gotten to today. And as I dove into commercial real estate, I realized it's obviously a very big animal. It's going to take me a while to wrap my head around this and come up to speed. So I started engaging AI as a way to supplement and help me make that transition a little faster. And we've been rolling with it ever since.
That's amazing. No, and as you alluded to, just finding ways to not only differentiate yourself from others in the marketplace, which is a big part of the business development process, but also streamlining processes so it makes it much more efficient to do things. And that's kind of one of the things that I'm really fascinated by, because similar to what you described, the commercial real estate industry has been operating in a similar form or fashion for quite some time. And I'll, just as an example, I know I always give my broker a hard time. He's very much a paper and pencil individual, and it's great in a lot of ways. And he's definitely adopted new technologies, primarily related to cloud computing, right? You have your, your cloud where you upload all the information, and, from a storage standpoint, it helps save on space. But as far as like newer technologies or finding ways to streamline processes, it's an area of the business that I've really tried to improve on for myself. I come from a technology background myself. And so finding ways to try to modify and implement different systems to support whatever function we're trying to accomplish is something that has been interesting to me. And obviously, hopefully it'll be something that the audience is also interested in. So, what to start, I guess, what got you interested in trying to leverage AI for commercial real estate? Did you ever have like a tech background or interest, or what exactly led you to that path?
So I've always had a bit of a tech background, and especially in the single family management. Obviously, we use software for management, a lot of third-party services. So that kind of brought me up to speed with software for the real estate profession. Directly, what led me to AI is right about a year ago, I took my first CCIM class with our mutual friend Bo Barron and Mark Seipert in Atlanta. And that was, for all intents and purposes, my introduction to commercial real estate. And it was like drinking from a water hose. It was tough. And once I got past the class, past the exam, I was hearing a lot about ChatGPT, and I wasn't too interested in writing emails for me, but I thought, some of this stuff kind of kicked my butt. I wonder if ChatGPT can do it. And I started copying a few questions in there, and I was very surprised when it started knocking them out of the park. Mm-hmm. So this told me that it had some direct impact and assistance in commercial real estate. And I immediately came back to our office, and I showed my director, Carl Landrino, who's involved with the CCIM Institute, mainly to show him, hey, y'all have an issue. You need to look at this. But also to say that, look, because it can do this, I think it can do some other things for us in commercial real estate. And from there, we started diving in for multiple use cases. I looked into trying to build our own large language model. We were running with ChatGPT, their custom GPTs. We have our own built for that reason, trained on our company, industry, and state specific information, and just experimenting with it across the board. I have about 40 of my agents using our little custom GPT product, and these are more senior experienced agents, and they're giving me some really good use cases and feedback back. So, and in addition to the little custom GPT, there's a number of third-party services that we've been using. This is changing by the day, by the hour, so you really have to struggle to keep up with it. But that's by and large what led me to AI and kind of where our journey's been in the meantime.
That's phenomenal. And you refer to the GPT, meaning that it's custom something. It's an extension that's custom to what you're trying to accomplish, whatever that form or function is. Correct?
That's correct. So, ChatGPT, Claude, Bing, Gemini, all these that we've been hearing about, these are large language models, and those are that's the buzzword we've been dealing about. And my initial goal was to build our own large language model that we housed. All of our data remained here on our cloud storage, trained on our data. We can customize the input, the output. We can use it to build a number of different applications. And I got to work on that over the summer and got about halfway finished with it, I'll say. And in November of last year, OpenAI, which is the parent company of ChatGPT, they released the ability to create custom GPTs. And what this is a customized version of ChatGPT. You can brand it, you can change your conversation starters, you can give it a specific knowledge base. And I immediately saw some benefit in that. I knew that custom GPT would do about 80% of what the custom LLM I was building, from what I intended for it. So within 2 days of them releasing that ability, I jumped on and I created NAI Ladder and Bloom GPT, which is the name of our brokerage. Mm-hmm. I trained that on all of our company specific information, company handbook, all commercial real estate educational material I can get my hand on, our state commission, license, law, all of that information. And it's been a wonderful tool moving forward. If you can imagine everything that ChatGPT can do for you, but having it speak the commercial real estate language. And just a direct example of that, if you go to regular ChatGPT or Claude and you say, what is TVM? It's going to say television monitoring or something in that regard. And if you go to ours and ask the same question, it's going to spit out the time value of money definition, give you the formula, and even a few examples of how to calculate that.
That's amazing. Yeah. So the logic there is you create for lack of a better word, an extension to the large language model that is ChatGPT. It utilizes all the functionality that ChatGPT has, and then this, app or extension, you train it to function specifically for whatever your use case is, or specifically for whatever you're trying to accomplish, which in your case is, variety of different factors. But we'll dive into some of those in the near term here shortly. So one of the questions I had that kind of stems from that is regarding the privacy component, which maybe has already been addressed in the what you're describing. So, one of the things that I know initially was a concern with ChatGPT is if you start throwing in specific or private data into the system, that it may or may not be able to keep others from accessing that, just because again, it's more of a open source type of product. Mm-hmm. So I didn't know if they've addressed that with the new functionality.
With the custom GPTs in the settings, you can allow or disallow for your information to be shared with the model. Now, all of the information that you upload, it retains in your conversation history. And that's the same as having it sit in cloud storage, whether that be Google's or Microsoft's or whatnot. When you delete that conversation, that information is removed with it. And that is OpenAI's statement. They expose the model to the data, not the data to the model, is their saying. I have not had any privacy issues on our end. I've gone back into regular ChatGPT-4 and tried to query it on some of the specific inputs I gave our custom GPT, and it does not have access to that information. So that's kind of their statement and where it stands, and I haven't had any privacy issues thus far, and we're about 8 months in.
That's awesome. No, and that's a big relief for a lot of people, because I know one of the often things I hear from people is like, oh, well, if I put in lease values or I put in certain things that's private to my clients, and all of a sudden people can access it on generally from anywhere. I mean, obviously that would be a concern, and I understandably so. But
Yep.
because of what you're describing, it seems like there's ways to be able to
Mhm.
toggle on and off whether or not that it is a function. So
Yep. And all of the information that you input into ChatGPT, and especially through a custom GPT, it's tokenized and encrypted,
yeah,
much like the blockchain and that transfer of information. So there are some high functioning tech professionals that could possibly rearrange that data, but far and few between. And thankfully, I haven't had that issue yet.
yeah. And why would they? I mean, if they're really try to access that, power to you, I guess. But
Yeah.
that's awesome. So, as far as the use cases go, as you described, I thought we'd kind of dive into some of the different areas of the business that you guys have focused on, maybe starting
Mhm.
with kind of operationally, because I obviously one of the things that I've heard a lot of people say is, man, if this could take, some of the day-to-day operations away from what I have to do before, I can focus more of my attention on the actual valuable functions, which would be business development. So,
Mhm.
what areas of the business have you focused on to try to streamline some of those processes? Maybe if you could highlight one or two that just kind of stand out to you.
Yeah, absolutely. Starting at the most basic, prospecting material,
Mhm.
letters to clients, owners, communication, that sort of thing. Obviously, it can write you some wonderful text. With the custom GPT in it having all of our company information, it automatically cites our company name, history, services provided from our website, that sort of thing, different meeting agendas, that sort of thing. It's been very helpful. I tend to break what it's capable of into a series of categories, and they're not official, but content and applications, reference, calculation, data analysis, and then imaging. With the content and applications, that's your email, your prospecting letters, your meeting agendas, those sorts of things. With the Dolly function, it can create images for you, so different logos. I've even had it draw some floor plans, architectural renderings, that sort of thing. And it does have a code interpreter, so it can write code for you. It can
Mhm.
debug code. So if you want a amortization calculator for your website or a tenant portal or anything in between, it can write that code for you. If you're struggling with code for something on your website, it can debug it for you. I find that incredibly valuable. Also intended for it to be a reference source. So rather than our agents going to Google with a question and getting a number of different responses from the internet, they can come to our custom GPT, ask it a question, whether that be about Louisiana license law or calculation, different acronyms, what have you, and it cites the answer straight from the valid textbook or our company website or what have you. So in terms of a reference source, it's been very helpful, educational aid, that sort of thing. I have our intern training program built into the GPT. So rather than sitting down with a booklet, our interns can now train themselves with the GPT and provide as many examples as needed. Very helpful in that regard. I also have it doing a lot of different calculations for me. Anything as simple as acreage, square footage, upwards of discounted cash flow analysis. If whatever you're willing to take the time and walk it through, it can greatly assist in your calculations there. With the data and financial analysis portion of it, that's kind of the big one. It has the ability to accept files. You can upload files, pretty much any file type, but PDFs are best. And with that, I've been doing a number of things. We'll upload a lease and perform a lease abstract within 20 seconds. We can scan purchase agreements for critical dates calendars. I can then have it formulate that into an email so I can quickly spit out to my related parties. I can upload annual cash flow statements, have it pull out the income expenses, determine NOI. From there, I can create a pro forma, a budget. I can do some value setting based on cap rates, a number of different things with that. I've uploaded maintenance records, on my property management history there. I was
Sure.
interested in
Yeah.
tenant records, maintenance records. So it will analyze maintenance records, give you some insights. An example was it analyzed 3 years worth of maintenance records and pointed out that I typically have an AC issue in April or May each year. So this coming March, I may want to have my unit cleaned and serviced to avoid that. So just some little insights. Tenant histories, it'll kind of indicate who's typically late on payment, kind of give you some risk for eviction, that sort of thing. Uh, CAM reconciliation. I've been uploading my financial statements, number of different invoices, having those arrange it. A lot of good things in that regard. And then the image function I touched on earlier. spits out a logo for you, spits out a floor plan. I can take a picture of a hand-drawn floor plan, have it recreate that. Uh, the imaging needs a little improvement. It hasn't caught up to Midjourney yet, and we can touch on Midjourney a little later. But I'm surprised it hasn't caught up that far, but I do see it improving a little more in the coming months, especially with the coming release of Sora. That's going to bring a number of abilities to the table. So those are just some different use cases we've been using, but I like to tell people, while these use cases are wonderful and we're looking for more, don't get tunnel vision, because this thing can assist you in pretty much every aspect of your job. Now, these use cases are great, but think outside the box when it comes to what it can do for you.
Sure. So when you're approaching the process of determining, okay, what type of, processes do we want it to somewhat assist with? Is it just pretty much creating a list of different things that you do on a day-to-day? Because the way I think about it is that, you maybe create a list of all the different processes that you perform on a day-to-day, and you highlight the ones that you think could potentially be automated in some way, form, or fashion. And then you use the, whatever, the functionality of the GPT, for example, to help streamline those processes. So is it based on to what you alluded to, like uploading, the educational material? I guess how does the prompt work to be able to set that up the proper way? And maybe that's just
So when I first created our little custom GPT, the first prompt I gave it was, give me a list of capabilities, how this can assist in commercial real estate, along with prompts to go with it. And it spit out a good 20 of them. I'll say about half of them were relevant, half of them were beyond the capability of just the GPT. It was a little forward thinking in that regard. So that got me started. But as I mentioned, the best use cases have come back to me from my experienced agents that have been willing to experiment with this. Even the simplest things like the lease abstract. I can't take credit for thinking of that. I wish I could, but immediately when I gave one of my agents access to it, they came to my office and, do you think this could do a lease abstract? I said, I don't know. Let's find out. And we gave it our template. We gave it the lease. It spit it out, I'd say within 90% accuracy. It missed a few breakpoints and some little things. It was a retail lease. So I went back in and retrained it on that. It caught it all moving forward. So retraining it is very easy. It learns from itself very fast. And that's kind of how I got started on the use cases to get the ball rolling. But the best use cases have come back from the experienced agents.
That makes sense. That makes complete sense. So regarding the, there's obviously different functions within the business that could support this functionality. So, regarding the business development piece, you had mentioned creating letters that you guys send off. I'm assuming you guys have a regular cadence where you send out information to different property owners to kind of keep them educated on the market and prompt them to be able to, potentially meet with an agent to be able to source their business. Now, are there any other use cases that you guys have explored outside of just the written format? Or I guess that'd be one of my questions.
Well, not so much within the custom GPT. That is all text-based, written format, some calculations and numerical stuff involved, but that's largely it. Outside of the custom GPT, there are a number of third-party services. They're popping up left and right. Note-taking is one I've been using recently. I have a little product that anytime I join a web call, it joins with me. As soon as I hang up on the call, it follows up with a direct transcription of the meeting, as well as a summary. It'll tell me who was speaking positively, negatively, who was neutral. It'll say what the talking points was. It'll point out my action items. And that seems really cool, but all it's doing at the end of the day is recording the conversation, feeding that transcript through ChatGPT, and prompting ChatGPT to give a summary and to pull out the sentiment. And then it just feeds it back to me in a good format. So, that's one of them that's popped up recently. I have another one that I'm using for presentations. You can create a wonderful slide deck in under a minute with just a series of prompts, copy and paste your text information, whether that be from a educational publication or one of your listings. It'll put a slideshow together for you instantaneously. I've been really impressed with that. Another one I've been looking into has to do with avatars and cold calling. So I have two different products. One of them, I can actually train AI agents. I can link a phone number to it. I can give it my listing, my client database, all relative information. It can actually make calls for me, some soft calls, and try to set up some further information down the road. And the other version of that is actually for our interns. It's a number of different cold calling avatars with different attitudes, buy, sell thresholds, and they can actually practice their cold calling techniques. And They even have a little a leaderboard. They kind of gamify it a little bit. So we'll see who has the best score at the end of the week, that sort of thing. And you can even feed that product if you record your previous cold calls, you can feed it to try to, it learns from those conversations. It'll build an avatar similar to the client you've been working with, so you can practice on them. I found that to be very helpful. Outside of that, we touched on Midjourney a minute ago, and Midjourney is by far the best image generator on the market. DALL-E 3 is the image generator that's built into ChatGPT and also the custom GPTs that you will build. But the images aren't very realistic by default. Midjourney can produce some incredibly lifelike images. You can't tell the difference. And with that, we've been doing a lot of work for developers. So if you look at developments, you tend to see a lot of hand-drawn architectural renderings. I think that's a thing of the past. I'm working with a wonderful Midjourney artist, and what he'll do is actually feed the development concept, the overall master plan, any descriptions that go along with it. He'll have the GPT analyze that information and produce renderings of the development that are incredibly lifelike, very realistic. It takes your geography into account, your coordinates, so it gets the flora correct. We're in the South, so I want to see bayous and cypress trees. I did a project in Birmingham, Alabama, and it was a little more hilly, pine trees. It gets your geography right. So whether we are, I can feed it a hand-drawn architectural rendering and reproduce that as a realistic, lifelike image in a number of seconds, or we can feed it the master plan, the community information, and have it generate custom images. So a lot of benefit in that. We're also using Midjourney to, we'll take pictures of half-built buildings and feed it the development design and have it virtually build out the building, exterior and interior. We can visualize renovations. We can give the tenant, the user, different options in terms of exterior finishings with that. They can visualize it in real time. When you pair that with the VR, AR headsets that are becoming so popular, a number of possibilities open up. It used to take a number of years to build a video game in these virtual worlds. With AI, we can build those virtual worlds in a matter of minutes. And if we can do that for the virtual worlds and the video games, then we can also do that for commercial real estate developments, city master planning. We can strap on the goggles with Midjourney and these image generators and pre-build and pre-walk developments, simulate the tenant experience long before ever breaking ground.
Yeah, it's impactful, extremely impactful. In particular, when you're dealing with people who, in general, I think people need to visualize how something could potentially look, and if you could provide them with something that they can see and potentially touch, feel, et cetera, it activates more sensory. It's more sensory, so they obviously would be able to make a decision much more readily than if they just see a cold, dark shell within a space, for example. And I'm talking more so from the tenant space, because I do a lot in the retail side, and oftentimes I'll have people who are, performing, they're walking into a space, and they're maybe a franchisee that have done this maybe once before, but maybe not. Maybe they just haven't had any type of experience. And so kind of walking into a space and visualizing how this could potentially be is something that could be very valuable. And then on the other side that I'm kind of curious about, you referenced Midjourney being obviously a third-party service. Is there a way to connect the GPT and Midjourney so that it essentially not necessarily cuts out DALL-E, but can replace the functionality, or is it something that is kind of operating independently?
Not directly, but I tend to use both hand in hand. So
Sure.
before I go to Midjourney, I would go to ChatGPT and our custom GPT. So it's talking the commercial real estate language. I'll feed it the images, the master plan, and I'll have it create the perfect prompt for Midjourney. And
Nice.
when you get AI talking to each other, the outcomes are typically a little better once you take the humans out of it a little bit. So again, I'll go to ChatGPT, feed it the development, analyze this. This is what I'm trying to do in Midjourney. Give me the perfect prompt for the outcome. I'll copy and paste that over to Midjourney, and it's instantaneous.
That's amazing. No, that's super smart to be able to do that. And another obviously use case regarding development, where I'm actively taking on a small development here in Louisville, Kentucky. And part of the process of getting the zoning done on the development is to provide renderings and elevations for the city to review and to verify that all these different, boxes are checked. So, obviously that incorporates the architect, that incorporates the engineer, that incorporates all these different parties. What you're describing is that you could take those preliminary drawings and, whatever other documentation you receive from these professionals, upload it and be able to provide a visual representation of what you're planning to do on
Yep.
site.
Yep.
Yeah.
And in that regard, to add on to it, we've also used it kind of with the CCIM strategic analysis model. We work through the 4 components. So I will feed it demographic reports. I'll feed it city zoning laws, codes, that sort of thing. Work my way through the 4 components. Have it give me the go or the no go for each one, as Bo likes to say there. The more reports you can give it, the more information it has to sift through, and the better the result's going to be. But in terms of visualizing development, it's been helpful, but also analyzing the feasibility of the development.
That makes sense. And another question I had, kind of side note before jumping into another topic, was related to the gathering of data. So do you always have to input, you upload documents, or is there a way to streamline that process by allowing it to scrape the data from a source on the internet?
So I tend to manually give it the data just so I'm confident in what it's had. I review it. So ChatGPT has Bing web browser built into it. So anything I ask of it, it's first going to search its internal knowledge database. And if it's not there, it can use Bing web browser to go outside and scrape the internet. The key there, it is only going to be able to retrieve what's openly available on the internet, not behind a login or a paywall. And as we know in commercial real estate, for specifically comps can be very hard to find, even if you have the login. So it hasn't been great in grabbing that kind of information for me. I tend to go get my comps and that kind of thing, my city zoning on its own, and I'll feed it. That way I make sure it's getting the correct copy. I have had some success with it grabbing documents and information online. I'm working on a project that involves a state lease agreement, and I wanted to get my hands on a copy. So I just went to my GPT and said, I'm working on this project. I hear there's a lease between the state of Louisiana and XYZ. Can you scrape the internet and find me a copy of that lease? And it found it immediately. That was wonderful. I've had it going to the tax assessor's website, retrieving some tax amounts for me, that sort of thing. So again, if it's openly available on the internet, it has access to it. It can pull it for you. But for comps and a lot of the specific information we need for commercial real estate, I prefer to go to the source, get it myself. That's just with using the Bing web browser function. With a custom LLM or a custom product that you're powering with an API call to ChatGPT-4, you can customize a lot further to get those outputs, cater to your needs. And theoretically, with a product like that, and you'd have to pay for access, but just like you'd have API access to ChatGPT to run it as the algorithm behind the product, I could theoretically have an API call to a comp database, which one of them's reached out to me and offered me that. It is possible. The numbers were not feasible for a little local project, but maybe something nationwide. But when you have your custom product and you can link it by API, then I'm confident in it pulling the correct information. You can have it go pull comps from the comp database. You can have it pull previous listing information. ChatGPT is just not there yet.
No, that makes sense. No, I was thinking more so for national reports, like the CPI reports that were released on a monthly basis, trying to get access to some of that information that just gets uploaded in a cadence onto the system. So you feel you get up to date on certain, more so national stuff. And then if there's any, reports that are released locally that could potentially be beneficial, you could just say, well, every month or so, scrape this or try to get this going. So.
And I tend to lump a lot of those use cases together in a single project. So for example, the other day I went to my little custom GPT, and again, I'm in Baton Rouge, Louisiana. So I told it to give me a list of the largest locally owned banks in the greater Baton Rouge area, along with an executive contact for each one. And it quickly spit out that list. I then said, formulate an email, letting them know you're a commercial real estate agent available for any CRE needs in the event of upcoming loan defaults or something like that. It gives me a wonderful little prospecting letter I can then simply print and mail out to my contacts it just gave me. I'll then come back and ask it to give me the current real estate trends that are affecting the commercial real estate banking sector. And it'll give me some national trends, some insights. I'll then come back and say, use all of the above information and prepare a 20-minute meeting agenda for this client. And it'll give me a little layout, meet and greet, introduce yourself, but it'll also cite those trends so I can bring some valuable, cutting edge, relevant information to the meeting. So that's just a way I've worked a number of little different use cases into a single workflow there.
That's amazing. And that's brilliant, because you're right. I mean, a lot of that, it takes some of the legwork out of having to come up with the ideas for this, whatever the agenda would be in this case. So it's really intelligent the way that you're approaching that process. One other thing that I know is a use case for AI is related to the content creation side. So the digital branding, the
Mhm.
creation, you reference logos, you reference color schemes, etc. I guess what are some of the ways that you all are trying to leverage the platform or leverage this technology to amplify your branding online?
It is a marketing department's best friend.
Mhm.
Even the content that they already have and it's gold, upload it, have it proofread it, have it rearrange it. It can
Mhm.
get your message across better. With the imaging, like I said, we tend to throw together a website marketing material for every product we have. So custom images and logos to go along with that have been absolutely wonderful. I'm really anticipating the release of Sora, which is going to be the new ChatGPT product. Like Dolly 3 is the image generator,
Mhm.
Sora is going to be a video generator.
Oh, wow.
And it's going to generate up to 60-second videos. So, not incredibly long, but for marketing, I had access to the trial version of it and I was blown away. I simply copy and pasted my marketing description from my listing into the the video generator, and it immediately gave me a wonderful marketing video. It used pictures from my listing, my marketing description, some stock images of agents and that sort of thing. But you can pump out a 60-second marketing video by spending 30 seconds prompting it. I think that's going to have a lot of implication in the marketing side of the business. They're actually dragging their feet on releasing that because they are very worried about we'll say, the political ramifications being election year. We've seen a lot of deep fakes, and that this isn't going to help that in that regard. So the last I was told is that will be coming over the summer. We'll theoretically being released with ChatGPT 5. So we'll see if that comes to fruition or not.
That's awesome. So will it at some point also incorporate the editing functionality for like if you wanted to upload a video that was a raw file that maybe needed some editing, it could potentially function as an editor
Yes,
for
and
use.
that's one of the intended uses out of the gate.
That's great.
It should come stock being able to do that. Just
Mhm.
like right now, it'll accept audio files and it'll transcribe it.
Yeah,
It can make edits to those sorts of things. So it'll be a similar process, but for videos.
that's smart. That's phenomenal. I mean, so with interestingly enough, so I've written a few books on commercial real estate, and I
Mm.
also speak Spanish. But the time it would take me to translate everything into Spanish is obviously it's time consuming and
Mhm.
would require me to dedicate a lot of time to it. Now, what I was able to do is I was able to take the books that I created, translate them utilizing the large language model ChatGPT, and then also leverage technology, the third party technologies you guys have referenced. There's technologies out there now that will read those whatever the functionality like the for example Spanish for example
Mhm.
there's I think it's 11. I can't remember the exact name of the functionality. Rod Santomassimo put me onto it, but there's a third party technology that will read the Spanish version, and it sounds like a human, like it sounds like a person.
Yeah.
So it can create not only the digital version of the book in ebook format, print format. I had hired someone to format it, but now you also have the audible version that
Mhm.
people can leverage, and so it creates this opportunity where you can take a piece of content and transcribe it and create amongst 5, 6, 7 different languages, depending on what type of you know business you try to serve,
Yeah.
in areas like a Baton Rouge. I don't know if there's different demographics that you could potentially service through these, creating new videos or whatever that is. It just creates this new
Yeah.
vertical that you can potentially explore. So,
And speaking about your book writing and the way you used it there, which was brilliant, by the way,
mm,
something I've been doing is outlining. So when I want our GPT to build me a rather large text-based report, it has limits on how much text it can produce at one time.
mhm,
So I'll start by describing what I'm trying to accomplish. And recently I did a BOV with it. And so I fed it the comps I wanted it to use. I had it do some math for me, give me the averages, give me a recommended listing price. Great. Now I want to use all that financial information to build out my BOV. Give me an outline for my BOV, citing different sections, company history, valuation methods, etc. And it gives me my point by point plan for my outline. I'll then come back and, number one was say introduction and company history. I'll come back and say expound on point one, number one to your greatest ability. And it'll build that out to, its text limit. And I'll come back to number two, work my way through the list. Gives me a full narrative. I'll come back and review it, maybe have a couple iterations. But that's a way you can give it the outline, give it the bullet points, and now come back and ask it to expound on those bullet points. And then you can come back and even expound on that further if you want to make that multi-chapter or something like that. So when creating large text-based documents, outlining has been a great function.
That's phenomenal. Yeah, I've leveraged that actual exact same functionality to create like long blog posts for SEO purposes and everything else. So
Yeah.
we'll take top 10 questions asked for XYZ. You take a list of those questions and create, the 500 words or 750 words per question, and it creates this 3,000 to 4,000 word blog post. So,
and the websites were another wonderful functionality. I recently joined a little specialized group, and we built a website for our services. And I built the GPT to build out the text for every portion of that website. And then I had it review that text to optimize for SEO searches. And the recommendations it gave were wonderful. A lot of the stock images I used on that website came from either Dolly or Midjourney. So it's been helpful with that as well.
Yeah, that's brilliant. Because again, I think it can allow you to leverage information that you wouldn't necessarily think about a lot of times. You
Exactly.
prompt it, and you can leverage it the way you need to. But so, out of curiosity, where do you see the future of this going, in particular in your capacity? So, regarding the operational side, the business development side, maybe incorporating some future ideas regarding the digital or content creation side. What are some of of those verticals? Where do you see, I guess, the industry going over the next few years?
Well, I'll start by saying a lot of the products we currently use are going to start incorporating AI, and you've seen it already, whether it be Build Out, Canva. There's an AI assistant pretty much in every product that we use at this point. Anything that has a search function is going to be optimized with AI. It's going to become the programming algorithm behind all of these applications rather than the old binary, if yes, do this, if no, do that. You now have an algorithm that is capable of reasoning and giving some different examples. So I see it. There's going to be a 2.0 version of pretty much all the tech that we use in real estate that's going to be powered by AI. In addition to that, I think the predictive analytics and forecasting are going to get so much better. The data that we use in real estate is largely outdated. If we get it in the same quarter, we're doing good. It's usually a year late. This is going to be able to assess real-time data, sentiment analysis. So the insights we get into valuations, attitudes, locations, it's going to be real-time, and it's going to be a lot quicker. All of the services that we use that rely on data, for that reason, it's going to become more efficient. They're going to use AI to scrub the data, implement the data, make it more accessible. The augmented reality imaging that we touched on, I think, is going to play a very large part, and we're already seeing that. But every other person's going to have a pair of goggles walking around in the next year or two, just like we all have these watches on our arms now. And with Midjourney imaging, we'll be able to see greater detail in real time there. So a lot of automation of admin tasks. As you can see, a lot of this is hand in hand, taking the small stuff off the plate. With the avatars, as I mentioned, they can place cold calls, they can call for you, but they can also receive calls. So coming from a property management background, this is possible today. You can have an avatar assistant that's powered by your custom large language model. In addition to placing cold calls for you, they can receive calls from your tenants reporting maintenance. As we talked about hooking the third-party service with APIs, you can hook your property management database to that large language model. If someone calls with a maintenance issue, your avatar picks up, gets the tenant's name, the issue, automatically puts that into your management software, which schedules it with your vendor. When that's marked completed, your avatar can automatically follow up with the tenant, confirm it was done, as well as answering a number of questions about rental payments and just general inquiries about properties that are available. So that's a specific use of how I see admin and property management, but I see it having that effect across the board. So those are just some areas of where I see it going.
That's amazing. Yeah, no, and obviously, as you continue to see these new, systems being able to be implemented, then obviously new ideas could potentially come forth. And it's amazing just in the short amount of time that we've had this come available, the amount of use cases that have been explored. And now that more and more people are starting to get familiar with the technology, it's only going to become exponential from here, where people are just throwing things
When
together.
a lot of people ask me, what kind of impact is this going to have on commercial real estate? And they don't like my response, but I'll say it's going to be as big as the computer. It's going to be as big as the internet. It's going to be as big as cloud storage. When those innovations came available, there was a lot of resistance. You know, is this going to take my job? I'm not going to use it. I like to have the pen in hand. I'm going to do it for me. You know,
Mhm.
that calculator, that's cheating. I'm going to do my calculations by hand. There's not many of us saying that anymore, right?
Sure. Yeah.
It has led to greater innovation. We have adapted, and now we cannot imagine life without it. And I think AI is going to be very similar.
Yeah, no, I agree with you, and obviously it kind of gives a call to action to people to really start understanding these technologies, because at the end of the day, you know, it may not replace you as an individual, but someone who understands how to leverage these technologies is going to outpace you night and day within a
Yep.
relatively short period of time. So just
Yeah.
understanding that there's ways for you to be able to incorporate this into your business so that you could better serve your clients and ultimately become invaluable
Yep.
to what they need you to have done. So,
And there's a popular saying going around. I don't know who to give credit for it at this point, but as of today, AI will not take your job, but
mhm,
someone who uses AI will take your job.
absolutely.
I can use this to be as productive as 10 people at one time.
Hmm. Yeah, no, I can only imagine. It's only going to expand up from there, especially as you start incorporating new, you know, either new GPTs or new systems to create, you know, amplify the reach that you're obviously getting in a variety of different capacities within your business. So
Yeah.
that's awesome.
And I'll
So,
also say there's a lot of people out there that are really hesitant. They don't know where to start. They're a little intimidated. They're hearing LLM, GPT, Claude, chat. You know,
mhm,
it's a whirlwind of information. For anyone that's in that boat, go to ChatGPT, go to Claude. They're all easily accessible. They all have free models you can use, and just get started. Whatever you're working on today, ask it. This is what I'm doing. How can you help? And it's going to give you some ideas. You'll be blown away.
yeah, that's amazing. So outside of, you know, that, obviously, I would highly encourage you guys to leverage either all these different large language models to be able to generate ideas of ways that you can improve your business operations and, you know, your business development activities and content creation and really any other function that could potentially improve your day to day. But if people want to learn more nuanced information regarding how to implement this into their day to day, are there any resources that you've leveraged to kind of get you up to speed on ways to maybe create your own GPT or to leverage some of these other third party sites, or are you kind of just following along with, you know, I guess is your main source of information like a Twitter or some of these other places that, you know, kind of keep you up to date on what's coming up and what's new?
So there's a number of different top voices on LinkedIn that I like to follow. There's
Mhm.
not a lot of commercial real estate specific AI training out there, which might be a bubble. Maybe we should look at that. But so different top voices among different industries, and I like to see how they're rolling it out to their company and their industry, and is that applicable to commercial real estate? You know, we've got a lot of tentacles. What works for the financial industry will have some direct implication for commercial real estate. So I like to keep a wide net there. In addition to that, there's a couple little newsletters, again, not commercial real estate specific, but the Neuron is a very popular one. It just kind of keeps you up to date on all the new developments in AI. Since our product, the custom GPT, is hosted by OpenAI, I like to follow their blog religiously. Every development that they make is going to affect us. It typically only gets better, but I like to keep my eyes open on the change. So the OpenAI blog is a wonderful source of information, and then just a number of different voices on YouTube, different newsletters, publications. So there's not a direct source I can point you to, unfortunately, but just start following across the board, because what's applicable somewhere else is likely going to have some impact here.
Yeah, yeah, I couldn't agree more. And really, I mean, half the battle oftentimes, the way I've learned a lot of things is just by going on YouTube or just doing a little bit of research and just kind
Yeah.
of piecing it together as we go. I mean, I don't know
Well,
if you ever built a computer, but I remember the first time I built a computer, I just looked up online and there was this guy there that was just like teaching you how, okay, we'll do this, put this component here, and even tell you what type of equipment you need to buy to do it. And so it's
when I tried to build our custom LLM over the summer, I started with YouTube. How do I
yep.
build a custom LLM? And you'll be surprised how far those videos got me.
Oh, I can only imagine. No, I'm actually not surprised at all. I mean, the to be quite honest with you, oftentimes if it's something that's going to be a lot more elaborate, I don't use Google. I just go straight to YouTube and say, all right, how do you do this? Because being able to see it visually and have someone explain it to you as they're doing it, in my opinion, is the best way to learn something, especially when it comes to something that's a little bit more technical.
Absolutely.
That's just the way that I learn better that way. And you know, some people read better. Others, for me, I'm a very visual type of individual. I got to see it to make it to crystallize it in my brain. So
Same here.
definitely. So I wanted to give us an opportunity to ask a few questions near the end of the episode. So if you guys are watching this on LinkedIn, Facebook, all the other platforms, feel free to type away in the chat box, and we'll give Brian an opportunity to answer some of these questions. But in the meantime, I guess, is there a question that maybe you wish I would have asked you, or maybe something that's kind of been you've been burning to kind of share as far as this particular topic is concerned?
No, we really didn't discuss the outline moving into this, but you have checked all the boxes and rounded all the bases, Raphael. So not at this time.
No, I appreciate it. No, and it's very fascinating, because one of the areas that I really want to learn more about. And so when I remember when Bo was kind of telling me about an opportunity to interview, I was like, man, I gotta talk to this guy, because he seems like he's been doing a lot of really cool stuff in the space. And there's ways to incorporate it into my day to day. And at some point, if I decide to grow a brokerage or whatever else, then obviously that gives me the opportunity long term to provide something of value to agents, for example. Yep. So it creates all these different, value propositions for not only your clientele, but if you decide to grow an organization, you can kind of have that as a pitch and say, look, like, this is something that, I'm able to provide you all, whether that's, the tools that you need to better serve your clients, or you reference training, on the intern side, like being able to train people in a much more streamlined process versus you having to physically be there and provide them with whatever the information that they need. So
that's absolutely right.
Yeah, it's fascinating.
It's been a game changer, and of everything we've discussed today, believe it or not, we're not even scratching the surface. We are in the first inning, first batter. There's lots of time. You don't feel left behind at this point. Just embrace it and run with it. There is still time to catch up.
That's awesome. All right, I'm gonna check online. Yeah, definitely. All right. We'll give it about a minute or so before for questions. But in the meantime, if people wanted to learn more about what you guys are doing on a day-to-day, like, what's the best way to be able to reach out to you? Or, do you have are you yourself looking to do more consulting regarding this as well?
Yeah, it's very new, obviously, but I'm happy to help where I can. People can find me on LinkedIn under Bryant Cheely.
Mm-hmm.
You can also Google search Ladder Bloom Bryant Cheely. I'll come up directly there. My email is bcheely, CHEELY @ladderbloom.com. Anyone who's interested in this and wants to talk further, please don't hesitate to reach out. I'd like to discuss it.
Definitely, yeah, and to be honest with you, you should probably open a consulting firm for this, because I would imagine you'd have a lot of people that are interested in talking to you about ways to implement this into their day to day. So
absolutely, we're working on that, and I'm happy to help where we can. I've been working with some appraisals and building some custom GPTs for them, extracting comps, reviewing appraisals, definitely some implication in that regard. But anybody who's just generally wants to be educated about AI, or if you're interested in a custom GPT, however I can help, don't hesitate to reach out.
That's awesome. All right. Well, it looks like you've answered all the questions, at least for the time being. And we'll also be distributing this on all the different platforms. So we'll distribute this on YouTube, Spotify, all the different social platforms out there. So I'll be curating all the different questions and whatever else. And obviously, you guys now all have Bryant's information. So if you guys have any further questions regarding AI and the way that you can incorporate it in your day-to-days, again, feel free to reach out to him. He's been great to communicate with, especially before this. And obviously going forward, I'm sure he'll be very readily responsive to your guys' questions. But Bryant, obviously, thank you so much for your time. Obviously, we greatly appreciate your willingness and desire to share this information. It is a brand new industry, a brand new technology that people can incorporate within the commercial real estate industry. So I'm sure you're going to get a lot of people who reach out that just want to know more about what you do on a day-to-day. But also, as I mentioned before, we're going to incorporate all of Brian's contact information in the description. So if you guys are watching this on YouTube, go ahead in the description. You'll be able to access his email, phone number, etc. Same if you're watching this on Spotify, it'll be in the show notes as well. So Brian, again, thank you so much. If you guys don't already follow the podcast, please come back and subscribe. We do this every other week. We invite speakers from all across the country to talk about a variety of different commercial real estate topics. And obviously, we greatly appreciate your guys' support. So thanks again so much for tuning in, and we'll see you all next time.